Okay. Hello, everyone. We're just going to get the webinar started. I see some people trickling in, so I'm going to give it just one more minute here before we start. Thanks for joining. Looks like the numbers keep going up. I'll give it just a little bit longer. And Michael, we have you in here as well.
Yep, I'm just joining to hang in the back. We should be live and good to go.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kick off and get started. I see that it's recording at the top just for confirmation for Paula, but thanks everyone again for joining. This is going to be kind of a fireside chat with our guest, Noel Anderson, and then we really want to share about our Ag45 cohort that we are running at the end of this summer. It's a new specialty cohort that we're running for I-Corps. We're very excited. We know that there's a lot of great innovation specifically in ag that happens in our region, and so we want to champion that through this 7-week training that we have kind of curated for all of you. And so Noel is one of our instructors for the cohort. And so to kind of introduce you guys to him and give you some kind of insight on what you can expect for the cohort, I've got a set of questions for Noel. We're going to get to know him, kind of hear his background and his experience in agriculture and kind of what he hopes and expects for teams going through the cohort. And so Noel, thank you for joining me today.
Good morning.
Do you want to start off just by giving the audience your background and experience that you have in the ag industry?
Sure. I grew up as a city cousin, so my grandparents were on the farm. My parents grew up on farms. My dad ended up going into animal health and was involved with sales of feed and animal health products, and then was a livestock consultant at a local cooperative in southwestern Minnesota for a while. And meanwhile, I grew up in suburban St. Paul, Minnesota, and went off to Iowa State, where I ended up with a PhD in computer engineering, came to NDSU and was on faculty, and then in the early 1990s, got involved with a company started by the Dahl brothers, Howard and Brian Dahl, called Concord, which made air seeders. I came on board and led the effort to come up with the first GPS controlled variable rate air seeder. And then that part of Concord was acquired by Case Corporation, which merged with New Holland. And as part of that, my department got eliminated. And then joined Deere, where I had a 24-year time in the advanced technology area. And then the last 2 years, I've been doing things like being a technical advisor for Grand Farm, and then now becoming an I-Corps instructor. And so I'm really looking forward to being part of the Ag45 cohort later this summer.
Awesome. Thank you. For people who are listening, you might think, wow, that's a lot of experience in ag. And that's why we were so excited to invite Noel to be a part of this cohort. We really take pride in our instructors not only feeling confident in the curriculum of the business model canvas that we teach, but also if we're going to run an agriculture specific cohort, we want to know what we're talking about and give the teams really great knowledge. And so we believe that Noel will bring that. Noel, I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure you have over 200 patents. Is that correct?
256 is the current count.
Okay, 256. I was talking with someone yesterday and they were like, yeah, so and so they have 15 patents. And I said, I know someone who has over 200. And so with your vast portfolio of patents, what does it take to bring a new technology to the ag industry? What have you learned along the way? A lot of our teams are doing that exact thing, trying to bring something new into the industry. And so can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll answer it in two parts. And so the first, I guess I'll call it three parts. So the first part is you have to see a problem and find a solution for the problem, or at least a solution that you think solves the problem. And my favorite quote about that is see a need, fill a need, which is from the animated movie Robots, which I think came out about 2006. So if you're looking for a good family movie that will stir the heart of invention in your family, recommend that one. And so you see the need, you think you can fill it, but then there's the need to validate that, yeah, this is really solving the need of someone. It's not just, well, the technology could solve it, but not in a way that the customer is going to find acceptable, and particularly not acceptable in a way that they won't pay for it. And so that's one of the key things about I-Corps is that it really focuses on getting the problem right before you start spending a lot of money on other things. And so I want to illustrate that with the idea of AC and tractor cabs. So we're going to go back to the 1960s when air conditioning starts showing up in cars, and it also starts showing up in tractors. Well, it doesn't start out in tractors alone. It needs to have a cab. And so we start seeing cabs in the late 1960s on tractors. And then someone said, oh, well, we could put an air conditioner now that we've got a confined space that we can cool down. And farmers are going to love it because farming is hot and sweaty without a cab, dusty. And so now we can not only keep them away from the dust, but it's going to keep them cool. And that's going to be operator comfort. Who wouldn't spend $1,000 for air conditioning on their tractor? Well, there's other stakeholders. And so for a family farm, and maybe adding $1,000 to the cost of a tractor, who's contributing to the decision? Well, there might be a spouse that is involved with making purchase decisions of that magnitude. There may be a father or a group of siblings that would also be involved. And so there's a need to have the solution be acceptable to them. And then finally, when the farmer goes to buy the tractor, that's typically with a loan. And so now all of a sudden you're needing to convince the bank loan officer to sign off on $1,000 more on the tractor loan. So there's that. You could say, well, let's look at marketing it to large farms. Like, what about plantations, sugarcane plantations? And so you take a trip down to Brazil, and they're very cost sensitive. And so they say, no, we don't want air conditioning. In fact, when we buy a tractor, let's not even put glass windows in the cab. We'll just, in fact, forget the cab altogether. We're totally out. Well, if you don't have people buying cabs with windows, they're not going to buy air conditioners. On the other hand, if you go from Brazil to southern Florida, they might initially say, yeah, well, it's the employees and we're not really, they have to work out in the hot sun, and we're not going to spend money on cabs and air conditioning. But if labor becomes short, then the problem isn't operator comfort, but employee retention. And so now the business case changes, and the problem that's being solved changes. And so how does the technology of air conditioning contribute to employee retention? And so that's kind of what played out in the 1960s. You can see it today if you pull into a truck stop, and if you were to do a survey of the sleeper cabs that were parked out in the big parking lot overnight, you would find that the tractor cabs that were owned by a company are typically not as lavish or as comfortable as a tractor cab that is owned by the or is operated by the owner, because since the owner operator is living there, they're going to be more willing to spend things for a little bit more space, better air conditioner, more comfortable mattress, all the things that contribute to cost. Okay, so Noel's talking about 1960s, and could bring in the problem of, okay, you've got the air conditioner in the cab now, except when you turn it on, it overwhelms the radio. And so you can't listen to the radio and have air conditioning on at the same time. And that, like many things, you solve a problem, but you create another one that has to be mitigated. Okay, let's bring that forward. Let's see, from roughly 1966 to about 2001. And there's this new product that will allow you to do hands-free in the hands-free driving with the tractor. And so, what problem is that solving? And what's the business case for the person that's going to buy it? And it's like, well, if you don't have to uh, have your hands on the steering wheel all the time, uh, you're you're going to be able to do other things. And cell phone wasn't quite as accessible, so that was the question. It's okay, if I have to be there anyways, what am I going to do in this bumpy tractor ride? Uh, but then it had the added benefit of solving the problem of efficiency uh, and the amount that was spent on things like seed and fertilizer, because with manual driving, you've got like 10% overlap was pretty typical. And so with the GPS guidance, you're able to get to just a few inches. And so, if you come and, yeah, you're going to be comfortable, you're not going to be as tired at the end of the day, but the customer is not willing to pay for that problem to be solved. But if they're shown that you're going to be able to get 10% more acres covered, you're going to be able to reduce your seed and fertilizer costs by 10% potentially. That that's something that someone might write a check for. And now we go ahead another 25 years, and so we've got vehicle autonomy. And so what is the problem that autonomy is trying to solve for customers? And not just, oh, that's a cool, yeah, I'll buy it someday, but write the check now. And so some of the argument is, well, if you can have the tractor out in the field and you can go to your kid's ball game, that's a lifestyle benefit. But then, there's also the labor piece that if you have hired people and you're having problems getting them, so again, it's labor acquisition and retention, cost of labor, that that might be the thing that sells. Or for someone that otherwise is owner operator, they might go for the comfort. So I-Corps helps identify what the customer problem is, who the stakeholders are in making that purchase decision, and may have different needs from the end user. You're on mute, Brenna.
Thanks, Noel. Yeah, all great points that you made, and a lot of the thinking that we do in I-Corps. And so something that our audience heard you say a lot is, like the problem that we're solving. And so in I-Corps, it's very much, we're not selling our idea. We're not going out doing customer discovery and interviews to say, hey, would you buy this? Are you interested in buying it? But it's really, what problems are you currently facing? What are the pain points? And so a lot of times there might be a problem that you look at, but it might not be the biggest problem or the biggest need. And so we really like to look at pain points. And Noel, you are a consultant with Grand Farm, and they released their pain point report. The top 5 pain points that they have found in agriculture, and we see a lot of our teams looking to solve that. And so, a great point of kind of as we move through the problems that we're looking at. As you kind of mentioned, we talked about in the 60s and the early 2000s and 25, things are always evolving, whether that's in actual technology, but we also see that in families and generations and people who are the growers and the buyers. Can you talk about how the industry has changed both in technology and kind of innovation with agriculture as you've kind of seen it grow?
Yeah, so if you go back to my small square bale hay baling days, and you look at the electronics on a tractor, and the electrical on the tractor was basically some lighting, the AM radio, and maybe the air conditioner. And as my career moved into ag tech, a big enabler was the GPS system that enabled the location to be precisely known. And that has really changed over the last 35 years in terms of going from tens of feet down to 2.5 centimeters on a consistent basis. The communication links have really changed. So back in the mid 90s, I left a farmer with a prototype piece of equipment, and I was wanting to go home. This is kind of down by Wahpeton, wanting to go home for the night. So I left instructions and thought that he was going to have a good experience the rest of the evening. Well, it turns out there was a problem. So he had, and this was before cell phone service. So he had to get out of the tractor, walk to the edge of the field, get in his pickup, drive to a place where there was a phone, and then call for, what he should do. And now, we've got the high-speed links in the tractors and with Starlink. We don't have the problem of the being on the edge of cell phone service like we used to. And then, just the increase in processing power. So you look at what's on like a See and Spray with multiple NVIDIA processors. And then we've had advances in 3D printing for prototyping. So it's a lot easier for startups to fabricate something in a small quantity, like quantity one, take it to the field, put it in the hands of a customer, and get that feedback that's so critical for evolving the product.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I worked in some of my former experience, I actually worked for Bushel. For people listening, if they're not familiar, it's an ag tech startup. And one thing too that we saw is just like with every technology, obviously you need to figure out who the decision maker is. But when it comes to growers and ranchers, there's also, we're seeing kind of a generational switch. And so a lot of the owners are kind of coming up to retirement, and there's this younger generation of ranchers and farmers and growers who are coming in and they've had technology in their hands since they were little. And so we see maybe not a more willingness, but there's a different in perspective of using technology. Would you agree with that statement, Noel?
Yeah, it helps to have the experience. My dad was getting to be close to 65 in the 1990s and had not previously been working with computers. And so he made the career decision that he was going to retire rather than try to get up to speed with new technology. And so when you have the multi-generational farms, you have the younger people that are more familiar, more comfortable with the technology, and are the ones that are bringing it into farming operations.
Yeah, perfect. As we kind of move into, I'm going to talk about some of the specifics of Ag45, but I first kind of want to hear, Noel, what do you hope that teams will get out of our Ag45 I-Corps cohort?
It's the confirmation on who the customer is, what their problem is, and who are the stakeholders that act as gatekeepers. And gatekeepers can either help you along. So, like the banker, are they pro your product? Are they against your product? Well, they're pro having the farmer succeed so the farmer could pay back the loan. And so initially they're going to be a hindrance to your commercialization because they're going to say, well, this is unproven technology. What benefit is there? But once they're convinced, then they're enabler because they'll have the farmer getting the loan to buy the product. And so being able to understand those relationships of the customer end user within the broader context, and then what's going to sell the product or what's going to sell the technology that will eventually end up in a product.
Awesome. And for everyone here, one thing I didn't mention at the beginning, there is a Q&A portion. So if you do have any questions, you can enter them, whether that's for Noel specifically, or as I share kind of the specifics of the cohort. And so I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to look at the specifics of our cohort. Noel, can you confirm you see my screen?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, excellent. And then I'm also going to have one of my teammates put the link for this in the chat Q&A section for all of you as well. We'll also be sending up a follow-up email. So if you're like, how do I get this link? It will be coming to you. But this is just the general page on our website. This is also where people will go if they want to apply. But as I mentioned, this is going to be a specialty cohort. So at its core, I-Corps focuses on customer discovery. And so we like to say we go from 0 to 0.5 in commercialization. We're not going to teach you the full all the tips and tricks onto commercialization. You're not going to come out of this, ready to go to market. But we are going to teach you how to kind of build that firm foundation through customer discovery. So figuring out what is the problem you're solving, what is the need, which direction are you headed, so that when you come out of our program, you have both confidence and some qualitative data to show like, hey, I'm headed in the right direction. We also see a lot of teams pivot. And so I want teams to be aware that they might come in and be like, oh, what I thought is actually different from the people I talked about. And we find that to be a success in I-Corps. We love to test assumptions and really get teams headed in the right direction. So as you'll see on this page, this is kind of the schedule overview. We run all of our sessions virtually. So if you are in a different state or maybe you aren't able to make it in person, just know that we run our sessions virtually for that purpose. This one is special in that it does have 1 week where it's in person, but in general, all of our sessions are going to be on Thursdays and they're run virtually. We do have, along with Noel as one of our 3 main instructors, we do also have some guest speakers. So session 1, we are having a gentleman, he's actually from the Pacific Northwest, but he will be he's someone who has gone through a regional I-Corps. He did a national I-Corps, and he has his technology is in agriculture, a little bit also in food science. And so he's just going to share about his experience as an entrepreneur, what it's like to go through and do the regional I-Corps, the nationals, which is 100 customer interviews, but in that ag space. And one thing about our cohort, you might keep hearing agriculture. I want you to know that ag tech is wide. And so that can be livestock, that can be food science. We call it ag or ag adjacent, ag related. And so if you're questioning, is my technology for this? Feel free to reach out to us. But it is an umbrella. And so Chris, like I said, his is actually in harvesting apples, and so that's not something that we typically have here in North Dakota, but it still touches agriculture, and he has done a lot of customer discovery, and so he's going to share his experience. In session 3, we have a gentleman named Ankit. He is out of Nebraska, and he is a ag entrepreneur, but he's also a founder of the Spur, and the Spur is an innovation lab in Nebraska with emphasis on ag, biotech, and food technology. And so if you guys find him on LinkedIn, he's also a part of our Ag Tech Engines, our NSF kind of sister grant, if you will. But he's all about ecosystem building. And so where do you find these partners? The people who can help you along, but also build out an ecosystem as you grow your technology. And so he's going to come and share about building those relationships and finding those relationships. And then at our last session, there is kind of a showcase, if you will. So teams, after they've gone through all the weeks, they are going to present their findings, kind of their lessons learned. We are inviting Generator in. Generator is an accelerator that helps businesses with funding, but also kind of forming their pitch and their business model so that they can go on. And so they're a great next step post I-Corps. And so they're going to come in and talk about resources and kind of opportunities for teams after I-Corps. And you'll see here in the schedule, Conference Day 1, Conference Day 2. So this is where our cohort is a little bit different. We are inviting all of our teams to come to Fargo for in-person conferences. This is a great, great place to get those customer discovery interviews done. When you go to conferences, you're surrounded by a lot of like-minded people who are thinking about and dealing with issues that you are trying to ask about. And so one of those conferences is Big Iron Farm and Construction Show. If you guys have never been to it, think lots of construction and agriculture and manufacturing businesses and vendors, livestock as well. And there's going to be growers and ranchers, a lot of people involved with agriculture, all congregated in one area. And so this is a free event, but you'll be able to get a lot of your customer interviews done. And then the later on in that week is Autonomous Nation. So Grand Farm every year hosts Autonomous Nation, and this is much more of a conference where there's programming, and so you'll get to hear from people in the industry talking about autonomy, similar to what Noel shared about, kind of where we're headed in autonomous technology. But then there's also going to be some startups who are doing pitches. And so people who are attending this are interested in new technologies and advances in agriculture. So it's going to be a great place for you to also get your interviews. This week is fully paid for. So if you live out of state, we will pay for you to travel here. We'll have your hotel paid for and everything. If you live in Fargo, we will still provide your hotel. And so as we scroll to the bottom, you're going to see here in bold 3,000 in participant support. I do want to point out that that week of Fargo travel is separate from this 3,000. And so 3,000 in participant support, that is used to help you guys do more customer discovery. So if you need to travel somewhere else to do customer interviews, if you some teams have used, LinkedIn Premium to further their search to find people to talk to, but these funds are at your use to be beneficial for you in however you see fit. And so we'll talk more about that, but just know there's a $3,000 financial support, and you will also be your travel will be covered to visit Fargo. The application deadline is Monday, July 13th. That is a big thing I want to cover. That is coming up. We know there's a holiday here coming up at the end of this week. And so if you're thinking about it, just know that that deadline is approaching. The apply button is right below. You can go ahead and fill it out. Our application is very info gathering versus qualifying. So who are you? Who are my teammates? This is my technology I'm working on. Fill out all that information. We are limiting this cohort to 10 spots. And so we do have more than 10 applications. So we will be going through a vetting process, but just know there are 10 seats and spots are applications are coming in. So please make sure you get yours in soon. If you have any questions, I'm actually going to kind of turn to the Q&A section. Noel, are you able to see, are there any questions? I'm
not seeing any in the webinar chat.
I see a raised hand. Kurt I'm looking for the chat here. 1 second. Kurt,
I'm going to allow Kurt to talk, so I'm going to hit allow to talk.
That's
really
great.
quickly.
Thanks, Michael.
Kurt, go ahead.
Hey, Kurt.
My question. So your chat is disabled on a side note, and so you should enable that. And then the other small question. So I'm planning on exhibiting at Big Iron,
Yep.
and so and I didn't realize that Autonomous Nation is doing it at the exact same time. So I don't know how I is essentially be able to do both. I have to figure it out. Possibly can.
Sure.
But there, looking at my schedule, I think I can get to most of them, or I could get to most of them, except for one or two.
Sure.
That I guess that's the sort of primary question.
Sure. So, will you be a team of one, Kurt, or do you have other team members, other coworkers that you have that could join you as part of your team?
No, I think it would just end up being me.
Okay. That's something that we can discuss offline with our team. Typically, and almost always, it's required to be at all of them. A lot of times, if someone does have to be gone, if a teammate, a technical lead can be there, that usually works okay. But I will go ahead and talk to my team outside of this, and we can get you an answer. We have your contact information, Kurt.
Gotcha. I think it's the last one that I
Okay.
have would potentially have a conflict, but I don't actually know for sure. It's going to depend on if I go to a trade show in Wisconsin or not.
Okay. Yeah, no, we'll reach out to you. Like I said, we have your personal contact information. I'll talk to my team and we'll get you a definite answer.
Gotcha. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you. It looks like we apologize if the Q&A section, guys, was disabled. Noel, do you have kind of any final thoughts, any comments?
Well, you could get me going on lots of other stories, so I think I'll say no.
Perfect. Well, if you guys do want to hear more of Noel's stories, we encourage you to join our cohort. I want to reiterate again that July 13th deadline. If you do have questions, I am going to go ahead and put my email in the chat here before we leave, but also we will be sending up a follow-up email to anyone who registered for this webinar. And so if you have questions or you're like, I don't know if this is for me, or maybe you have some timing conflicts such as Kurt, please feel free to reach out to us. We want to work with you. We want to answer your questions. If you'd like more of a one-on-one, meeting to dive deeper into our curriculum, we're happy to do that. And so I'll submit my email, but again, you guys will all get a follow-up on this that you can reach out onto as well. So there's my email. Noel, I want to thank you for joining. We will see you in a couple weeks. Yes.
There's a couple of questions that weren't in the chat, but were in the Q&A section. I don't know if you want to handle those offline or
Yes.
Or continue on here.
Oh, yep. Nope. I see him right there. Okay. So Roman, members of the team travel. Are all of them welcome to travel? Yes. So typically an I-Corps team, entrepreneurial lead, technical lead, industry mentor, the EL and the TL will be invited to Fargo and have their travel covered. Industry mentors, that is a question I need to ask for my team. But Roman, yes, your team will be able to come. And then Debesh, how technically mature should a team be before Ag45? Is the priority customer discovery, or do you expect prototype evidence such as Ag45? So that is a great question, and one we actually get with all of our general I-Corps cohorts. We see a wide range of where a team is in maturity, but the priority, yes, is customer discovery. And so we see teams in early ideation. Some have MVPs, some are even maybe patent pending, but you can kind of be in any stage. We do find customer discovery to be the most beneficial in your earlier stages. And so whatever stage you are in, Debesh, you are welcome to join, and our instructors can cater the experience to that and talk about it. So no worries about kind of where you are in maturity level. Thank you for pointing those out, Noel. Okay. I'm going to let everybody go. We're a little past 10:30. Again, thank you guys all so much for joining. You'll get that follow-up email. You have the link and my email. We welcome questions, and we would love for many of you guys to apply and join our cohort. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.